We have a busy day lined up here at the river farm. We're gonna be spraying some plots as well as trying our hand at planting some willow trees. First off with the spraying, gonna be hitting the same plots that I mowed last week. So these first 2 clover plots, gonna hit them with clethodim. Then we're gonna move over to the new micro plot and hit it with Roundup. The reason I wanna start with the spraying is we're supposed to have rain coming later tonight and over the weekend. So I want to give the glyphosate and the clethodim plenty of time to set in and absorb into these plants, but we should be timing it pretty well. The rain isn't supposed to start till 11 or 12 tonight. So hit that new microplot, and then we sprayed areas a couple weeks ago, so I see the grass starting to die, or we want to try planting some of the willow cuttings. So like I said, busy day, we're gonna get to work. All right, we just wrapped up the spraying. Really good conditions today to get that done. It's clear sky, sunny, hot, rain coming within the next 12 hours, so the plants should be nice and receptive and we should get a good kill. Now we're moving on to the willow planting, and I've talked about it before, but I have not done this yet. So I've done a lot of research over the past couple months on the best ways to do this, and like everything, there's a lot of different opinions on the best way, but for the most part, you know, when cutting these willows, a lot of people keep them in water for a couple weeks, let them develop roots, and then move them to wherever we're going to plant them. For us, we're not moving them to a different property or anything. We're literally moving them 200 or 300 yards. So we're not going to do that. We're going to throw them in water right after we cut them, just so they can absorb a little bit of moisture before we throw them in the ground. But we're essentially cutting them off the branch, putting them in the ground. We're going to cut little branches, little shoots that are probably 10 or 12 inches long. We're going to plant them about 8 inches deep, so you know they're only going to have a couple 2-3 inches above the ground, but they should do really well. We're taking them from the same exact soil conditions, growing conditions. This river bottom ground stays fairly wet, which is what willows thrive in. So I imagine we should be able to create some cover, and that's our ultimate goal, is to take that park area, make it a little more useful. So we're gonna get after it. We have a bunch of tools from Hooyman, the loppers, the pruners. We got a good crew here, so we're gonna try to knock it all out today. I'm gonna go eat lunch while you guys plant all these.
We're so fast. Built for speed. This is gonna be a tough trim job here.
All right, we've got probably, I'd say, at least 200 of these little cuttings. We've got it angled in, help it go on the ground, flat in on top, and I'm basically gonna go through, take the shovel, and make a little slit as deep as I can, as deep as the shovel head goes. Just we're gonna keep just putting them in the ground, probably a foot or two apart. This is right along the north edge of our north plot. There used to be some willows here, and we burned a little bit late one year, and the willows never really bounced back, but I like having a screen along this edge, so we're gonna try to replant some of these and work our way back into the park where we want more cover. But we're gonna start with the screen first, and then maybe some little bedding pockets back there where I sprayed. So I may or may not have snapped the shovel about a dozen trees in, but we found out with this ground being as soft as it is, you can actually just push them in the ground almost as easy. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna make pretty good time doing it this way too, I think. So we're kind of refining this as we go. We're moving to a little bit thicker cuttings, and we're trying to, they're easier to go in the ground first of all, but we're also trying to make sure that we don't have a whole bunch of extra stuff on top that's potentially going to suck away from the nutrients. We want these things to grow upward quickly rather than wasting some resources going outward. So this is pretty much what we've come up with, something like this, maybe a little bit bigger than the diameter of a pencil, but nice and straight. We're leaving 2 or 3 buds up above ground when we're planting them. So again, we're going to try to force that movement upward so these grow pretty quick. But we're making quick work of them. We've got probably over 100 in the ground already, and we're just getting a bunch more cuttings right now. Well, today was a fun little project. We just finished up this little area in addition to what we did up by the plot earlier. I'm guessing we planted roughly 700 of these little cuttings in the ground, so hopefully they do well. If not, I guess we're only out half a day's worth of work. Didn't have to spend any money or anything on this project, so that's kind of the nice thing. But in theory, they should do well. This is the right type of conditions for the willows to thrive. We're planting into wet soil already. A lot of rain chances in the forecast coming up, so that's what we're gonna need. Good sunlight hitting the ground in these areas, and it really wasn't too much effort. So this could be a good little pocket of bedding here, a good little screen up there at the top. A couple things that we learned kind of as we went today, we kind of geared at the end at least toward this length, 10 to 12 inches, a little thicker than a pencil. Really, like I said, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. It was definitely helpful to have some good tools, some good sharp pruners. Made quick work of getting the cuttings from the mature willow trees. Having a good pair of rubber gloves helped, stick them into the ground, keep your hands from slipping. That's pretty much it. I'm really anxious to see how these grow. Again, it's an experiment, but in theory, it should work pretty well. So we'll definitely keep you posted on this project as we go over the next year or two.
Well, as you guys can see, we've been getting a lot of work done down here at the river farm. Jared and the guys got that willow planting done, and that's an awesome project we've been talking about for a few years. I've been down the last couple weekends working. I've had Gavin down here trying to get ready to get food plots in on this southern half, and we've been getting a lot of burning done. And then I've had some issues with some crossings that were washed out, and spent a lot of time yesterday and today working on that, digging out log jams, and then working on some of these crossings. I just rented a little mini excavator, one little track hose from the local rental place. I have a half-ton truck, trailer, it's $200 for the weekend. And all of it's just so that we can get food in. I've got, I can put 5% of this place into food plots, and I'll try to get every bit of it into that. It's about 17 acres, and we're looking at getting beans in this year, and I've got a couple turnip plots. And all this is just better to strategize and come in after some of these different bucks. The buck I'm most interested in is Dak. You guys saw that we picked up his shed earlier in the year, and this is the first time I have the two sheds side by side. We have his match set from the year before, Dak. This is from 2019, right about 160-ish. And then just to show sort of the growth and what he did, made a big jump, beautiful deer, and I'm really excited to find him back this year. He normally doesn't show up here until about mid-October, and so we have every reason to believe obviously he's alive, and had a few close calls with him last year. I think the best place to catch up with that deer is either in the pinch or the head of the slough. The reasons that these two spots set up the best, you guys have heard me talk about the pinch a lot. It's a natural funnel. So with pre-rut and rut, deer are just moving through there. So that's a pretty easy one to understand. The head of the slough, which is just 200 yards down the slough, is in the thick of things. I mean, it's at the edge of the bedding. It's got great access up the slough in the fall, which is typically dry. We can get in, get out of there. And does and deer bed all around that area. So as I mentioned, Dak moves in to our farm typically mid-October, just in time for the pre-rut and rut. And he seems to really hang out in that area like a lot of the mature bucks do, looking for that first available doe. So I'm certain we'll be making lots of hunts in that spot again next year for him. I'm hoping a lot of these work improvements we're making out here are going to better our chances of catching him on the south end. The cutty back, my cutty link system last year when I set it up on this half of the farm, this was a new purchase for me last April. You know, his southern end of his range is definitely comes into this piece of ground, and I'm standing right here in front of my central timber, is how I referred to it a bunch last year. Got my home camera to my cutty link system, and I've had him on this camera last year. I had him on a scrape in the central timber, and then on the north edge of it, which basically butts up against Jared and I's piece. We've got a bunch of other good deer out here too. You know, that double beam buck. He was a 4-year-old last year, crab claw 10, a couple big 8s that venture down on this side of the farm. And of course, Merino. Merino's never been this far south, but we'll be certainly looking for him this summer as well. We've really struggled over the years to get really good late season food sources out here on the river bottom farm. I mean, it's just difficult to grow grain. We've had some luck with sorghum a couple years, but between flooding and having difficulty getting the co-op in here to spray, or it's too wet to plant, every year there's something that goes on and makes it difficult. This year I feel like we've got a good plan in place. Got some friends lined up to help us get the seed in the ground, and fingers crossed that the weather holds up and we can get a really good bean crop in here and have good late season food source. You know, that really enables us, or really improves our late season odds and the huntability of this farm, and just the overall deer health and keeping them here through the winter so we can find their antlers and all that good stuff. So I've still got a lot of projects to go, both on the home farm and down here. And our primary one again is focusing on the planting, but we're gonna get going on the blog series on the daily channel. So we'll keep you guys updated there with the projects as they get done. You know, and it's getting to be that exciting time of summer. Some of my bucks are starting to get some pretty good growth on them, and I'm excited to see who shows up, when and where, and looking forward to the rest of the summer. We appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.